I think understanding when and how to use debt is something that people don't really think about it. Like, I got people right now. I had a guy a couple of years from retirement. He's like, oh, I want to pay off my mortgage. I'm like, well, how much is it? Oh, he's like, well, I just refinanced 50,000. My house is worth 400. I refinanced 50,000. I'm like, oh, well, what's the rate? He's like 2.75%. I'm like, you're never going to pay that money off. I'm like, the banks would love it if you would pay that off, because guess what? They're making 7% mortgages right now. So, so there's a right time to use debt, wrong time to use debt.
Well, debt to me is interesting because debt can mean very different things to very different people, as well as businesses who under the law are considered people, which blows my mind. That's a conversation for another day. So like debt, I have student loan debt. I don't have much credit card debt. I managed to pay it off, but debt is the biggest problem young people face in this country because they have, I don't know if it's record low savings, but at least in the past year, savings has plummeted, but credit card debt has skyrocketed with inflation. So they have all this debt. They go into jobs who don't want to pay them well, so they're leaving their jobs. And it's just like the economy, this doesn't, who does it work for? Who does the economy actually work for with debt, even with debt in particular? Because with debt to a business is very valuable. Like Elon Musk just bought Twitter. Guess what? He bought all of that debt. So whoever had that debt no longer has that debt. Like as a business owner, I have been told debt is very valuable to you. But as an individual, debt is your worst case scenario.
Right.
So how does that make sense? How can, because there's the idea of perceived wealth, right? Your perceived value. Like your company is worth X, your actual value, but your perceived value is worth this. In America, perceived value is more important than your actual value, which blows my mind.
Right.
Like how does all that work? Like how can debt be so valuable? And why is perceived value even a real thing?
Right. Well, I think to answer your question, the number one thing I keep coming back to people, and then we can get into the economy about about this too, is it's all about cash flow. Cash flow is king. If you start a company and you have little or no cash flow and you have all kinds of debt, guess what? You're going to be going out of business, sooner rather than later. Yeah. And again, this is where I talk about the right and the wrong use of debt. If you're a company and you see an opportunity in a marketplace and you're expanding and you're increasing your cash flow, that's a good use of debt. And that's a good thing to be doing, by using debt in that particular way. Well, it comes down to people as well. And, this is the whole student loan debate, and I don't want to get too in the weeds on it, but, there's a lot of people that are looking, okay, I got a degree, I took on the student loan, but again, it becomes an exercise in what's the cost versus value, and again, I'm not trying to pass judgment, but if you have a degree in humanities and it costs you $120,000 a year and you're $120,000 in debt, was that a good decision to make? Meanwhile, the good thing about the U.S. economy right now is that, there are plenty of jobs out there. I mean, this is why I have a problem with people talking about, hey, we're going to be going into a recession in 2023. I mean, one of the problems I have about the media is the media 24/7 beats the heck out of people. Like, it's the worst economy ever. It's No, it's not that. But let's get back to cash flow for a second. If you have a job and you get laid off and you can find another job, that's great. And many times you can find a job at a higher paying amount. Well, that's even better. If you get laid off and you can't find a job, then it's a recession. But again, comes back to what are you doing with debt? If you took on student loan debt to get a degree to make more money, that's great. And that's what you want to do. But again, to your point about companies, people have to think about themselves as their own little company. And so if you took on a whole bunch of student debt for a humanities degree and you can't make any money with it, that'd be like a company opening up a division, that this company, what they do is they sell, iron ore widgets, and then they decide to open up a division selling ice cream and they can't make any money. So, I mean, sometimes you have to use the analogy of the absurd, but that's literally what it is. So, that's what I'm trying to get young people to understand. But again, early on in your career, you're going to have more debt. because you're trying to improve yourself. You're trying to get education so that you become a more valuable member of society and be able to make more money. So,
but a lot of those debts are just never going to be paid off. Like there's people out there who are collecting Social Security, but it's getting docked because they have student debt.
Right.
Like that's absurd to me. It's just, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of underlying issues to what caused that, you know, government policies, college exploitation, this, that, and the other, you know, that's a whole long conversation.